The economics of the Galactic Empire. The Galactic Empire was built on the ruins of the Republic, and with it came a new economic order, one dictated by military expansion, centralization, and oppression. Emperor Palpatine understood that control over the economy was just as important as control over the people. A new order, a new economy. At the heart of the Empire's economy was the nationalization of industries critical to its military might. Shipyards, droid factories, and resource extraction sites were either absorbed into the state or placed under the control of Imperial-aligned corporations like Quat Drive Yards and Sinar Fleet Systems. This ensured that production remained focused on one thing: fueling the Imperial war machine. The Empire also eliminated trade restrictions that had existed under the Republic. While this encouraged economic activity in some sectors, it also led to monopolies forming under companies that supported the Emperor. The corporate sector authority, for instance, was granted nearly unchecked power in the Outer Rim, operating as a state-sanctioned oligarchy where profits flowed back to imperial coffers. The cost of oppression. Imperial economic policy relied on forced labor, particularly from conquered planets. The Wookiees of Kashyyyk became slaves, used to construct the Death Star. Entire populations were subjugated, with their natural resources and manpower funneled into the Empire's massive industrial machine. This form of economic exploitation was brutal but highly efficient, at least in the short term. Taxation also played a key role. The Emperor levied heavy tribute on worlds within the core, particularly wealthier ones like Coruscant and Corellia. The burden of supporting the military-industrial complex fell on planetary governments, which had little choice but to comply. Those that resisted, like Alderaan, were dealt with swiftly. The hidden costs of galactic domination. Despite its military strength, the Empire's economy suffered from inefficiencies and systemic corruption. The bureaucracy was bloated, with imperial moffs and officials siphoning funds for their own benefit. The sheer scale of the Empire made governance difficult, and supply lines were stretched thin across thousands of star systems. Moreover, by relying on military conquest and forced labor, the Empire undermined long-term economic sustainability. Fear kept planets in line, but it also stifled innovation and trade. With free markets suppressed and dissent crushed, economic stagnation set in. The destruction of the Death Star was not just a military loss, it was an economic catastrophe. The station had cost untold trillions of credits, and its loss, along with the rebellion's growing influence, further destabilized imperial control. The second Death Star only accelerated the Empire's downfall, draining resources that could have been used to address economic instability. The fall of the Empire. When the Emperor died at Endor, the Empire's economy crumbled with him. With no clear succession plan, imperial governors and warlords turned on each other, splintering the once mighty economic machine. Supply chains collapsed, military funding evaporated, and trade routes fell into chaos. The New Republic, despite its challenges, offered a more sustainable model, one that prioritized diplomacy over domination. The economics of the Galactic Empire, a Star Wars story. The Galactic Empire was built on power, fear, and control, but underneath its military might lay a vast, fragile economic system. The Empire's rise to dominance brought not only political upheaval but also dramatic shifts in trade, taxation, and resource allocation across the galaxy. The cost of control. When the Republic fell, Emperor Palpatine transformed the galactic economy into a war machine. Massive military spending fueled the construction of star destroyers, TIE fighters, and, of course, the Death Star. But these projects came at a cost. Credits had to come from somewhere. Imperial taxes skyrocketed, squeezing planetary economies dry. Independent merchants found their trade lanes restricted, replaced by imperial-sanctioned corporations like Sinar Fleet Systems and Quat Drive Yards. On core worlds like Coruscant, imperial bureaucrats thrived, directing wealth into defense contracts. But in the Outer Rim, where the Empire cared more about order than prosperity, entire planets fell into poverty. Places like Lothal saw their agricultural and industrial outputs redirected for military use, while formerly thriving trade hubs like Christophsis crumbled under heavy imperial levies. The resource wars. The Empire's hunger for raw materials led to the exploitation of entire worlds. Wookiee slaves were forced to work in Trandoshan-run mines, while planets rich in Kyber crystals, such as Jeddah, became imperial strongholds. The empire didn't rely on free markets, it seized what it needed, often under the guise of security operations. Even major corporations, once powerful under the Republic, found themselves at the mercy of imperial regulations. The Trade Federation, the Techno Union, and the banking clan had once been economic titans, but after the Clone Wars, Palpatine dismantled their independence. In their place, the Empire established the Imperial Bureau of Resources and the Galactic Banking Ministry, ensuring all major financial flows were under the Emperor's control. The black market and the rise of the rebellion. While the Empire sought to crush dissent, its economic policies inadvertently fueled resistance. Smuggling rings flourished, led by figures like Hondo Ohnaka and Jabba the Hutt. The Empire's strict economic controls drove entire industries underground. Spice smuggling, illegal arms dealing, and off-the-books ship modifications became the lifeblood of countless planets. The Rebel Alliance itself was an economic phenomenon. Funded in part by wealthy core world dissidents like Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, it also relied on stolen imperial supplies and sympathetic traders. The more the Empire squeezed its citizens, the more people turned to the rebellion, not just for freedom, but for economic survival. The Empire's economic collapse. For all its power, the Empire's economy was a house of cards. It depended on endless expansion, ever-increasing military spending, and the ruthless suppression of local economies. When the second Death Star was destroyed at Endor, it wasn't just a military loss, it was an economic catastrophe. Billions of credits and decades of investment were obliterated in an instant. Imperial shipyards, reliant on state contracts, found themselves without direction. Planetary governors, once loyal out of fear, saw no future in the collapsing system. In the aftermath, the Empire fractured. Without a stable economy to fund its fleets, warlords arose, fighting over the scraps of a dying regime. The New Republic, understanding the failures of imperial economic control, sought to decentralize power, allowing planetary economies to recover. Epilogue: Lessons from the Galactic Empire. The Empire believed that force alone could sustain an economy, but in the end, its overreach doomed it. Wealth cannot be hoarded indefinitely, and economic oppression breeds rebellion. The downfall of the Galactic Empire was not just the loss of Palpatine, Vader, or the Death Star, it was the unsustainable nature of an economy built on fear and war. Perhaps, in some distant future, another empire would rise. But the lesson of history remained clear: no economy, no matter how vast, can survive if it crushes those who sustain it.